Hello guys, it's Stephen and welcome to the international break. Basically, throughout this 2-week period of peaceful, blissful silence, I wish it was that way if you follow me on Twitter. Essentially, I'm going to be basically opening it up to you guys to discuss whatever you'd like. So let me know in the comments below what you want to see discussed during the international break. I also want to say thank you as ever to One Football for sponsoring this channel. They're really good. I promise you, a fantastic app. It's free. You get loads of incredibly interesting and useful breaking news and loads of stats and all that kind of stuff. And it's where I did all my research for today's video in terms of fixtures and all that kind of stuff, discussing about that dreaded word, the quadruple. So go download it below. It helps support this channel. It's really good and you'll enjoy that. I absolutely promise you. I also want to say thank you to my newest patrons. It's Mulv and Joey from the Noisy Pod. If you don't know, those two guys, they do a podcast from out in America and they're really funny, really charming and really endearing. So go check out their podcast as well. I'll put it in the comment. If I haven't put it in the comment, remind me and I'll make sure I do that because those guys are definitely worth supporting. So thank you for my newest patrons, Mulv and Joey. Absolute heroes. Patreon.com/Esteemed Company if you want to get involved one day. As I've said a billion times, you don't have to. Just keep watching this channel. Maybe one day I'll get to do this full time and create more content for you. If not, I enjoy doing this, so don't worry. But today we're going to talk about that dreaded word, the Q word, quadruple. Can we do it? Can we do an unprecedented and historic quadruple? And despite what people say about our fixtures and the easy route we've got, it wouldn't be something that you can play down if we manage to achieve that. I don't know the answer. So I thought the best way to do it today would be to go through each competition and look how feasible and how difficult it could actually be in terms of on a game-by-game basis and where we could see. I'm going to start initially with the Champions League, I reckon. I'm going to start there because that's most fresh in the mind at the moment for me personally. I feel more, even though we played obviously the FA Cup game recently, Champions League one seems to me the biggest hurdle maybe, and it's the most fresh in my mind in terms of the most I've thought about recently. And obviously we have Spurs. Now, in general, our record against Spurs is pretty good, as we all know. We seem to have the measure of them, though we have got this bizarre situation where we play them 3 times in about 10 days or whatever it is, something like that, which isn't going to be easy, because obviously Spurs will learn from that. Now, I'm glad that we don't play Spurs as a Premier League game in between the 2 games. It's afterwards that we play them, after the Champions League ties out the way. So I'm glad that kind of doesn't affect the Champions League thing. I mean, it could affect the Premier League form because they could be more riled up to beat us if we knock them out. But I'm glad it doesn't happen. Now, essentially, after that, we'd face Ajax or Juventus if we got past Spurs. Ajax, as good as they are, I would fancy my chances there. And likewise, I feel like we should be confident against Juventus. They could beat us because of their experience and their wiliness and the fact that they're just so far ahead of the rivals in Serie A this season. And obviously, there's the Cristiano Ronaldo factor. But once again, it's possible. Now, if we play anywhere near the level we did last season, I think the performances against Napoli were the kind of performances we'd need. We think it was away last year at Napoli and we were fantastic. We were composed, we played great football. It'd be that kind of level of performance we'd need to get past Juventus, which is very possible. And Juventus are beatable, they are beatable. So stranger things have happened there. And after that, if we got past Juventus, if we performed that minor miracle, I wouldn't say it's a miracle, but you know what I mean. If we did well, we'd have United, Barcelona, Liverpool or Porto. I think we could scratch Porto off that. And then we've got essentially 3 potential horrible opponents. I don't want Barcelona in a final simply because Lionel Messi is still the greatest footballer to ever play. He always will be. He's a freak. And he's the kind of guy in a big game like that, he would just score a wonder goal against us. Which leaves United and Liverpool. In a one-off game, who knows? You could go anyway, essentially, if we get any of these 3 teams. It would not be easy if we got these teams at all. So essentially, I think I'll choose... Weirdly, I think I'd choose Liverpool. I think I could cope losing more to Liverpool than I could United, given the local rivalry there at play. I don't know. I couldn't leave as a rival them, but I think we could beat both of them. I'd rather get United Liverpool than Barcelona. Because I think we could beat them genuinely. So either way, it's not easy. Then you've got to consider the fact the first leg of the semi-finals potentially it would be surrounded by Burnley away and Leicester at home. So not the biggest games in the world, but not easy ones. Burnley are on something of resurgence recently, a decent team, and Leicester at home after it. Leicester would also precede the second leg potentially, with Brighton away being the last Premier League game of the season. And Brighton could be switched off by that point, fingers crossed. So it's not the worst fixtures around it, but it isn't ideal either. The Champions League is very much unlikely, in my opinion, at the moment. I think that's the biggest hurdle we've got there. If it happens, it will require some incredible focus. It's not impossible, but that to me is the biggest challenge we've got there. Because I don't put as favourites in that yet, personally. Even though the bookies may, I think given the other competitions we're in, it might be one step too far. And in a one-off game against United, Barcelona, Liverpool, if we get past Juventus, if we get past Spurs or even Ajax, it might just be too much. much. But we'll see. On to the FA Cup. This is where I feel relatively confident. We've got Brighton, a Brighton team that once again we should be able to beat. Chris Hughton's done a very good job at Brighton, but I think we should be able to beat them. They're currently down in 15th. They're not clear of the relegation zone yet, and who knows where they'll be by that point. By that point, I guess they'll still be pretty much the same position. I'm hoping by the end of the season, the last home game of the season, their last game of the season, their last home game, they'll be fine by that point, which will mean it'll be easier for us. But Brighton, they're not Watford and Wolves. And Watford and Wolves, in my opinion, are better teams, and the table says that. Wolves 7th, Watford 8th at the moment. So I would much rather play Brighton, and we should be beating Brighton, really, on a neutral ground. It's very much, Wembley's our second home these days, and I suspect we will turn up, and I suspect we'll play well there. I'm confident we'll beat Brighton because we'll play our A team. We'll go for it. Hopefully with the likes of Fernandinho, but maybe Kevin De Bruyne. We'll have a rested squad, hopefully. And Brighton should be just about enough. Then after that, Watford and Wolves. Watford is my preferred team there because we tend to do pretty well against Watford. Wolves will have absolutely nothing to fear, and they will come at us and they will create chances, and they'll be a very tricky team to play against, but we should be favourites for this competition now. And that's no disrespect to the three teams left involved in it, other than Manchester City. It's just a logical presumption given the quality of our squad and given those quality of their squads in general. They're good teams, definitely, but we're a cut above them, and they know that too. So that, to me, is a trophy I feel confident about potentially winning. The only good thing about the FA Cup as well is after the semi-final against Brighton, which is on the, the 6th or something like that, we don't play the FA Cup game then until after the season finished, after the Premier League season's finished, which is really nice. So it's 6 days after our last Premier League fixture, so the players will be nice and rested for the final. It'll be like one last hurrah. And we will have to think about the FA Cup if we get through the semi-final for, basically a month, or a month and a half, which is nice. It's nice just to tick that off and think, right, we basically got that one done down to the final. That's just one box we need to tick off. We've got to focus now on the Champions League and the Premier League, which is nice. So that's what I like about the FA Cup. We're very close to rounding that off in general. So I think we're likely. Then we go into the Premier League. And we've got to look at our fixtures now. We've got Fulham away after the international break, which isn't ideal. Fulham, they've lost loads of games and they're in terrible form, which makes me, my typical City mentality, think, are they going to beat us? But they've lost like 7 out of 7 or something like that, the last 7. And in general, they're struggling, and, they're right down there near the bottom of currently 19th, just above Huddersfield. They're a really poor Premier League team, despite having some decent players, the likes of Schürrle, Sessegnon, Mitrovic, and all that kind of stuff. But I still can't shake this nagging doubt that they could slip us up there. I think we should be okay. And then we've got Cardiff now. It's been rearranged from the 6th of April, I think it was 7th when the Brighton game was, now to the 3rd of April. So we've got a midweek game there. That won't be easy either, but I think we should be able to get past Cardiff. So after that, we got Crystal Palace away on the 14th of April. That would have been after this quarter-final first leg against Spurs and the FA Cup semi-final, obviously. So we could know where we stand in those competitions going into that moment, which would be really useful. But it won't be easy because Crystal Palace away are a very difficult team. We know how difficult it was last year there. We know how good their players are in that condensed Selhurst Park environment with the likes of Zaha and Wan-Bissaka, some very good players. So that isn't easy. And then we play Spurs again after the second Spurs leg. Now, at this point, we could have knocked Spurs out, or Spurs could have knocked us out, and someone could take the eye off the ball. Hopefully, it won't be us on either occasion. But we'll be bored of playing each other by this point. We really will. And Spurs could be a very, very tricky game because they might want revenge. They might be up for it. They might know our game inside out. It might just be too much of an ask to try and win 3 out of 3 against Spurs. And after that, it gets even more tricky because we play United away, which is a season-defining kind of game. And if we're still in the Champions League and still in the FA Cup final, we've gone through to that, this game will all of a sudden feel very, very pressured. Then we've got Burnley away, which is winnable, as we were talking about before. Then Leicester at home, and then finally Brighton away. Now, I'm hoping by the time we've got to Leicester and Brighton, their seasons have switched off, and they're comfortable. Leicester, obviously, totally safe in mid-table, so I'm sure at that point they might be playing a couple of kids, and we'll see how they go down there. I think Brendan Rodgers will be building towards next season, so maybe he won't be quite as focused on the here and now. He might play 1 or 2 academy lads. Brighton hopefully will be safe. They probably will be safe, I reckon. They're currently 5 points clear, of the relegation zone with a game in hand. So I suspect by that point they'll be well out ahead in front of Cardiff and Fulham and Huddersfield and that lot. So essentially, it's difficult. What makes the Premier League games difficult is the games we've got surrounded by them in terms of the Champions League and the semi-finals, potentially, and the quarterfinals. It's a very tough run of fixtures. Do I think we'll do the quadruple in a word? No. I think we might slip up and Champions League semi-finals. I think Juventus, if we get past Spurs, might be a bit too tricky given the fixture schedule that we've got. I don't think there'd be any shame in that at all. I do think we've got a very good chance to win the Premier League. I think we might just do it. I think Liverpool may drop some more points. They're not in great form at the moment. And I feel relatively comfortable that we'll drop less points than they do. And we are obviously still, I mean, they're ahead of us technically, but we've got a game in hand. I still feel comfortable about that. And I think we should be all right at the FA Cup. And for me personally, if we got a domestic treble, I would be very happy with it. I'd be exceptionally happy. It's also very hard to do that, of course. I'm aware there's loads of pitfalls there. So I wanted to talk about that in a bit more detail. I don't want people to play down City's success if we only get a couple of trophies. We've done really well to get this far this season. If we get a couple of trophies alongside the Community Shield, it's been a really good season. I would love to get to a final of the Champions League, even if we lost it, because as much as it's heartbreaking it would be, it'd be great to get there at that stage. And it'd be lovely to say we got that far in all those competitions. That's just my take on it, guys. Anyway, what do you think? Is it time to consider that? Can we actually do it? I had to make a video discussing that because I asked you guys and some people asked it and I thought, you know what, I'll actually go down this. Don't forget, if you are new to this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. All these people here as well, these are my patrons. These keep this channel going. Thank you very much for being absolute heroes. If you want to get involved, patreon.com/Esteemed Company. And let me know your opinions on this quadruple thing. And also let me know what you want to see talking about during the international break, because there's loads time to discuss all things Manchester City Football Club. And also, download OneFootball. Anyway, I've been Stephen. Bye-bye.